and you are listening to Executive Leaders Radio, broadcast from the University City Science Center in Center City, Philadelphia. This is your host, Mike Mannion, with Sirius Interim Executive Solutions. I'm joined by my co-host, Robert Petkov of ABA, and we are thrilled to introduce our next guest, Richard Negrin, or Rich. He is the Deputy Mayor of the City of Philadelphia. So welcome to the show, Rich. And tell us one thing we don't know about the City of Philadelphia.
Thanks, Mike. It's a real pleasure to be here. Well, I mean, there's a lot to know about Philadelphia. One thing you don't know, I think it's known as a city of neighborhoods. The one thing I think people don't understand is when you get inside of those neighborhoods, there are heroes, quiet heroes, working every single day to make Philadelphia a better city for all of us.
I must confess, I'm from D.C., and when most D.C.
I'll
people...
forgive you for that.
Thank you. When most D.C. people think of Philadelphia, they think of Santa Claus getting hit by a snowball at the Eagles game. So can you set it straight for the D.C. folks? You talk about neighborhood heroes.
We are a merit-based culture here in Philadelphia. If you stink as Santa Claus, we reserve the right to throw snowballs at you. That was the worst Santa Claus we'd ever seen, and he deserved that.
Fair enough. Can you give us an example of a local hero, a neighborhood hero?
I really can. We have a great program here in the city called Philly Rising, which reaches into the community and creates a grassroots effort to really empower people in the community to make a difference. I was out in one of those communities. There's a lady who I'll call Diane there with an 8-year-old, and she was complaining to me about the fact that her neighborhood has deteriorated. In broad daylight, in the middle of the afternoon, she took it upon herself to walk me down that street with an 8-year-old hanging on her leg and point out to me the drug house on that street. No fear of retribution on herself. Wow. Showing great bravery, standing there pointing to it in broad daylight and saying, please help me get rid of that house. That's an example, but that happens every single day.
So that is a typical Philadelphian.
It really is, showing great courage, caring about their community. Even in some of our most challenged neighborhoods, you walk down those streets, there's always those homes that are immaculately kept, right? They're with flowers and painted and swept clean. Yeah. Finding those people, enlisting them in the service of improving quality of life and empowering them in our communities is what I try to do every day.
Yeah, in fact, in the green room, you describe Philadelphians as, quote, people that mean you well.
They really do. When you look, when sometimes the city can get a reputation for being a tough place, and being far too violent. There are far more people in these neighborhoods who mean you well than folks who mean you harm.
Yeah. How big or small, by whatever measure, is the mayor's office or the administration, if you will, of the city of Philadelphia?
Well, the city government, obviously, $4 billion budget, large, complex organization, 60 some odd either departments or agencies, covering everything from the airport to the water department to everything in between. Large business, 25,000 employees, and it's a large, complex work environment, union, civil service, all those things that come, the challenges that come with managing a large, complex organization.
Yeah. You talked about challenges. You had a challenge as a young person that you had to face. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I did. One of the big turning points in my life, which is why I think I understand quality of life and violence, was I lost my father when I was 13 to a homicide. He was killed in front of me, and I participated in the trial. It's one of the reasons I went to law school.
What happened?
My father was killed by a very radical right-wing Cuban terrorist group. I'm Latino, so I'm a first-generation American. My parents both immigrated here fleeing communist Cuba. My father was engaged in a dialogue to try to help connect families, get them outside of Cuba, and he was targeted as a result of his activities, and shot dead and murdered right in front of me when I was 13.
What did you do? In that moment, what did you do?
Yeah, it's one of those moments that you step outside yourself almost. So hard to believe. You're in shock initially. I think it defines you, and you have to make a decision. When you look, that's a horrible thing, but we all face some kind of adversity. All of us have the loss of a parent or a child or something like that happens to us, and we have a decision to make. When something like that happens, we can choose to become better, or we can choose to become bitter.
So how did you not become bitter, angry, vengeful, etc.?
Yeah, I think football was one of the big things for me. I think having a support network whether it's an activity like football, throwing myself into that with a real passion, being surrounded by people who love me and helped, further my career.
Just to give our listeners a visual, you are how tall, how big? Because you're a big guy.
Yeah, I'm 6'4", something over 300 pounds at this point.
Pure muscle, listeners.
Played offensive line.
Had
a short career in the NFL. Played for the Cleveland Browns and the New York Jets way back in the 80s. Was a college All-American.
And despite all of that, even while you were playing football, you said, and I quote, "I never thought of myself as a leader," end quote.
No, I really didn't. I think the first example of being designated a leader was, and I'm incredibly proud of this, putting all the All-American awards aside, all the other trophies. When my teammates came together and elected me captain, I think was the accomplishment I'm the most proud of.
Can you bring us inside of the football team, either inside the huddle, inside the locker room? Why is that such a unique and special place?
It's you want to make analogies to war, which aren't really appropriate. It's really about bringing people together around a shared purpose and a common goal. Being a part of something larger than yourself as an individual.
Can you give us an example? Think back.
We were challenged. My senior year was a great example. I played at Wagner College. We won the national championship.
Wow.
Every single, because we, unlike Division I, we have a true playoff system, which we all need. But we specifically were underdogs in every single playoff game that we played. We were 10-point underdogs in the national championship game on ESPN. And we won every single game. And it was just a lesson and a pride. What we said to each other, I stood at the locker room door when the team was coming out, was, hey, I love you. Let's do this for us. Forget your family, forget the fans, forget the press. This is about us and what we had been through as a team. Being underdogs the entire year, figuring out a way to win and just getting it done.
Was that a more significant feeling than when you walked off the field as a champion, or just different?
Oh, it was far more rewarding to win a championship in that context. I think if we had been favored and we had been ranked number one, and that would have been expected. It was so more fulfilling and rewarding to push through the naysayers, to come together as a group and really do it because we had been through adversity as a team for the last 3 years before that.
Yeah, let's talk about another adversity in your life. You not only lost your father, you've also lost a child. Tell us about that.
Yeah, my wife and I, our family, we lost our precious daughter Abigail almost 5 years ago now to a terrible disease called spinal muscular atrophy. How
old was Abigail?
Abigail was almost 6 at the time that we lost her, and she had struggled with the disease from about the age of 6 months where she was diagnosed. It's a disease that really makes children struggle to breathe, struggle with muscularity. She was never able to hit her milestones and walk.
Yeah. What was the most difficult thing about her passing, besides the obvious, of course?
Yeah, well, whenever you lose a child, having lost a father before that, I thought I might be prepared for that. You're not prepared. It's a level of anguish that you can't even possibly imagine.
Is there another side to that? A day when you say, you know what, we can move on. We'll never forget her, but we can move on. Well,
people have a lot of trouble kind of understanding this. There's a grace that comes when you go through things like that. There's a courage that I saw in that child. She had joy in her life, even though she knew that she was unaffected mentally. Yeah. She was incredibly smart. I learned so much about courage and her ability to keep her joy every single day through her challenge. That makes my life feel easy.
Wow. Well said. Would you give us the web address for the city of Philadelphia, please?
Absolutely. www.phila.gov. Best website.
Give it to us one more time.
www.phila.gov.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you. We've been speaking with Rich Negrin. Rich is the deputy mayor of the great city of Philadelphia. I'd like to thank my co-host, Robert Petkov of ABA, for helping me with the interview. Don't forget to visit us on the web at www.executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders just like Rich.